Talking to Death is released every Friday and brought to you absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus at tenderfootplus.com or on Apple Podcasts.
Talking to Death is a production of TenderfootTV and iHeart Podcasts. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Talking to Death. This week, we have a very fun guest for you. He is a paranormal investigator. If you're into ghosts and spirits and the afterlife, then you're going to love this next guest. His name is Shane Pittman, best known for his work on Netflix's series 28 Days Haunted, as well as the Holzer Files on Travel Channel. Shane has a passion for the unexplained, and he brings chilling and compelling content to audiences around the world. He's dedicated his life and career to capturing the unexplainable phenomena that surround us every day. He's a highly respected member of his field and has some really fun stories to tell. And he and Payne talk about some really creepy encounters that they both had. They talk about ghosts and aliens and everything in between. So let's jump into it. This week's guest, Shane Pittman.
Well, thanks for coming to me, man.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Traffic wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all. Wasn't bad.
So tell me, I just want to ask you point blank, to be honest. Are ghosts real?
That is a very, very interesting question. I would say yes.
You would say yes?
I would say yes. But I would say as far as like defining what ghosts and spirits are, I've changed my whole opinion on that.
Okay.
So I know that we're communicating with someone or something, but I don't really know what it is. I just know it's beyond our scope of understanding right now. So in my opinion, how I label ghosts right now is something that I cannot see that I'm communicating with. Yeah, I would say ghosts are real.
Okay, so what do you think it is?
You know, I don't know. I have a lot of theories on that. Like it could be interdimensional. It could be ourselves. Like there's this interesting story.
Okay. Ourselves.
Yeah. This is it.
Now we're getting weird. That's
yeah,
fast.
Yeah. So there's this interesting story from a guy he tells where he was a young kid and he walked into his kitchen to get a sandwich, a peanut butter sandwich. And he was like 5 or 6 years old. He walks in and he sees this hooded figure opening up his refrigerator, and it freaked him the hell out, and he ran out of there, scared to death. Fast forward, though, he's about in his early 20s. He's in the same house he's visiting his parents, and he runs down to get a snack, which is a peanut butter sandwich, and he runs down and he opens the refrigerator. He's got a hoodie on, and he sees a small figure in the doorway. And at first he's like, this is strange. It doesn't make any sense. But it freaked him out again. But then he remembered when he was 6 years old, he saw a hooded figure in the same exact spot that he was standing to go get a snack. And when he opened the refrigerator, and he's thinking that maybe he saw a version of himself in the future. So maybe we're haunting ourselves. I know it's kind of a confusing thing. But
so he saw a ghost essentially 2 times, and like it potentially actualized that event.
Right.
And then the second time he was seeing the younger self who was probably spooked the first time okay, now it's, okay, how do you make sense of that? I mean, we're just making shit up here. We're just speculating, but
yeah.
What does that mean to you? Is there some sort of time plane that we don't understand? Is it an imprint?
I believe it is an imprint. I do believe that it's a time thing too, because time is man-made as far as how we do it anyway.
You mean the concept of time?
The concept of time.
Like a ticking watch, right? That's
right.
Just it's a measurement, essentially, right?
Right. So we kind of come up, it's a man-made construct. And I believe that we are more powerful than we kind of give ourselves credit for. I use this analogy all the time that, you know, I can walk into a room after a couple had been done fighting and they're not saying a word. I can walk in, but you can feel the tension from that argument, even though they don't say anything to you at all.
Are you actually feeling something, or are you observing them being different? Or
Well, I think it's a mixture of both. Because I've had this happen more than one time, where you walk in, they're off doing their own thing, but you can feel that something's not right. You can feel
like an energy or something.
Right. You can feel like a shift in the air or whatever. And you know how sometimes you're walking down a dark alleyway or whatever, and you just feel like something's off. You feel like you need to be observant.
I usually try not to do that, but yeah.
Same here.
Not just casually every Tuesday.
Right,
but yeah.
Right. But, if you're walking in certain places, you know that you're on high alert. Mm-hmm. It's something within you that is telling you, hey, be careful. It's that gut instinct. And I think that has something to do with it. I think that we have more influence over certain hauntings than we may realize. So a lot of people say, oh, this place is haunted or whatever. And I think a lot of times it has to do with the living more than what we perceive as the dead,
Living is in the observer of it, or
the observers, sometimes the people that are inhabiting the place, they're living there.
Okay.
I think sometimes it has to do with maybe the environment, things that are going on, stress levels, and whatever that energy is emitting at the time could play a factor in some of these strange and unusual things that's going on in people's lives.
Okay, so instead of it just being the Hollywood version of, it's your dead great-grandpa, it's maybe your own energy in your life interacting with your surroundings in some sort of way?
Absolutely.
That's observable to others even?
Right. A lot of people, I give this analogy again, there's been, since the dawn of time, probably millions, billions of people that have passed from this physical plane. And we confine them to structures so often. We'll say this place is haunted. This place over here is haunted. But I feel that, if that's true, we pass on and a fraction of us stay, then they're everywhere, or a piece of that person that was left behind is everywhere. So we can encounter them, daily.
I feel like there's this sort of Hollywood image of, or I guess Hollywood portrayal of good and evil so frequently when it comes to hauntings and ghosts. It's always usually portrayed as like a good or evil presence. And I feel like that's not very scientific. But I mean, that being said, you hear stories about stuff that feels darker or scarier in that way, but do you perceive those darker instances as an evil presence, or is it just how we're perceiving it? I've just thought before, what if something doesn't know where it is? Or like if it's, trapped in a place and it's like stuck, or maybe it's not even, it's like the remnants of what it once was, and it doesn't even know what it is anymore. I could imagine that being frustrating. I'd be banging walls and shit too.
Yeah, right. Well, and we always fear what we don't understand too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, whenever they have some sort of unexplained experience, they immediately jump to fear. It's that fight or flight mechanism. You're wanting to flee the area because you don't understand what's going on. That doesn't mean it's evil. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. To your point, I feel like if there is an instance where you do stay here for whatever reason after you die, then if you were an asshole here on Earth, you're going to be an asshole.
You stay
in the afterlife.
Forever, for eternity.
Think about it. Like your true essence of who you are. I mean, if you're a good person in life, it would make sense that you would be a good person if you stay behind in some sort of, if a piece of you left or stayed behind, then you would be still a good person. But again, if you were an asshole, you'll be an asshole again.
You're an asshole ghost.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell me just the first one that comes to your head. What is a time that you have been the most scared? Or is there one? Or are you just like totally immune to ghosts tickling the back of your neck these days?
Oh, no. So if anybody's watched the Holzer Files, which I was a part of for 2 seasons, you know I'm a very skittish guy, and I don't hide it. I'll jump if I get scared. It's just one of those things. I think one of the scariest times for me was whenever I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and we were investigating this train yard, and there were instances of a lot of weird things going on. They had what they call a death car, which, why did we investigate this place? I don't know. But they had this place called the Death Car where this particular train car was involved in a really bad accident. And essentially the people that were inside the train car got steamed alive because there was a malfunction.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Jeez, okay.
But there was this other place in the train yard called the Pit. And of course, they send me there because, why?
That'll be some good footage.
Yeah. So it's like it's underneath this train car or whatever, and I go under there, and there's one way in, one way out, and I couldn't just walk in. I had to crawl in because I think it's maybe 2.5, 3 feet high, and I'm crawling in there, and for about 4 hours I'm in there at this point. Nothing really is going on.
4 hours?
Oh yeah, man.
You didn't have to pee or anything?
Oh yeah, you have to.
You're
but
just holding it?
You just have to hold it,
Was
man.
waiting for a ghost?
Yeah. Well,
Like, come on, guys. Were you busy? Like,
well, you do filming and stuff too. Sometimes, especially in the paranormal genre, you have to wait sometimes hours before
for a light to flicker.
Yeah, or footsteps or anything like that. So here I was under the train car. It was about 4.5 hours.
So did you get used to it at that point?
I got used to it, but I was getting bored and I was getting frustrated.
Okay, so it became less scary probably for a moment, right?
I was
all right,
like,
what am I doing here?
I was like, man, there's oil, there's dirt.
Yeah.
It's not a cool environment to be in. It sucks. I'm ready to go. And while I'm thinking all of this, I start hearing footsteps underneath the train car. And from the viewer's perspective, though, they're seeing, it's bright. The IR light is bright. But underneath, I could barely see anything. It's dark as hell under there. And so I'm trying to figure out where are these footsteps coming from, and how can there be footsteps, because I couldn't even walk in. I had to crawl in. But I'm literally hearing footsteps coming up to me. So I turned my camera around and I'm looking, and I don't see anything at all. And then there's pebbles or rocks or something like that are being thrown at me from underneath again. And I can't pinpoint where it's coming from.
Like an actual physical pebble being...
Well, I'm hearing them. I'm hearing them, but I don't actually feel them hitting me, but I'm hearing them being thrown. And at this point, I'm like, okay, it's coming from the direction I need to get out of. And I'm frozen. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to go in the direction where the danger is.
You went from being bored to, I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Right.
I'm ready to get out of here.
Yeah. So that's going on. And I turn my camera, and as soon as I do, I'm looking in that direction, and I feel like a tug on my leg, like something grabbing me.
Nope.
And so that's when I freak out, and I'm like, oh hell. And I decide to just get out of there. But later on, whenever I'm reviewing the footage, when I turn the camera, you see like a hand come into frame, like almost like coming from the left side,
Like an actual hand?
like a shadow.
Not your hand.
It's a shadow hand, not my hand.
Something else's hand.
A shadow of a hand, like coming at the same time I was grabbed. And
You're like, cool.
You talk about being probably the most freaked out I've ever been. And to this day, the people that watch the Holzer Files and stuff, that's their favorite episode because they got to see me freaked out and scared. But that was that's probably the creepiest time that I've ever had.
So that wasn't some TV show shit. That was some for real.
No.
That was for real?
Well, see, that was one thing about me signing on to do the Holzer Files is I said, look, I know it's a TV show. I know we got to have a good story. I know all of this has to go on, but I really want it to be as genuine as possible because I do this outside of the TV world. I've been interested in this stuff since I was 6. So I don't want my reputation tarnished. I'm already looked at as crazy for believing in, in something other than myself, right?
I get it, yeah.
I don't want to add to that. So I want the footage. I want the audio. I want to review it before I give it to the editors and stuff. So they would hand off a drive to me before I would even leave set the investigation time. They would hand me a drive so I could review it myself right on the spot.
Wow.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah, but
a lot of times
they don't usually, roll like that. Not all the time.
So I'm very thankful to have been a part of a show like that. But yeah, they handed off to me, and all the footage that we found that is in the show, I found it and gave them the timestamps. So yeah, it's no TV shit at all.
Right.
It was real, and I knew it. I mean, and a lot of people ask me, "Oh yeah, this is just TV stuff. This is whatever." But then I ask them, it's like, "Do you see how many times I have basically shit myself and looked horrible? Do you really think that I want everybody to perceive me that way?"
Right.
No, but at the same time, I want to show you genuine, how you would react at home. This is how I react. This is just me, So,
or you're just a really good actor.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, if anybody knows me, I'm not the best
I would be acting way differently.
Right.
I'd be way cooler.
Right. I would be all
I wouldn't
stoic.
scream like that.
It's crazy too. Like I tried for the first couple of episodes that we filmed, tried to be the stoic Shane,
Then you were like, fuck this.
Yeah, and then
I'm
after
scared.
a while, it's like, I can't hide this anymore. I look awkward. This isn't normal. I can't hide
That
it.
wasn't the plan. You were trying to go in all brave.
Yeah, I was trying to go in brave
Just
and
not scared of anything.
right. I tried to do that, and then the producers and stuff were like, Shane, like, we've seen some of your work. We know this isn't you. Just be you.
Right.
Dave Schrader, which is another really awesome guy in the field, he took me under his wing and he was like, Shane, if you're scared, be scared. React. That's you. Be you, because that's why they brought you on to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So be yourself. And from that advice, I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
People are going to see me.
Right.
And all my glory.
Here we go.
Yeah. And from there, that was all she wrote. I had a lot of spooky moments.
I mean, I understand the just human nature part of the curiosity of paranormal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that for ages we've been fascinated by things that we don't understand, and there's a lot of stuff that we still don't understand, especially in the paranormal realm of things. And I don't know what any of it means, or if it's something spiritual or scientific. I lean more to the scientific side of it. But how do you get wrapped into it in a way where you can be a professional investigator of it, right? Like, clearly you, as a kid, found interest in this at some point, right? What was it that kind of made it more than just curiosity? Like, how did it go from just being curious to, I do this, I guess you could say, professionally, literally?
Yeah.
That's a big jump there,
Yeah.
right? And which is kind of, your kid self's probably like, hell yeah, right?
Right. That's a very good question. And I'll try to condense it as much as possible. So my first experience was when I was 6 years old, and very profound. I went to my mother about it, and it was a very impactful thing for me. And during that time in my life, without going into much detail, there was a lot of abuse, a lot of really bad stuff in my life. And it was within the moments where I was wanting to give up and call it quits,
Mm-hmm.
when I would have these weird, strange, unusual moments that would kind of snap me back and say, okay, there's more than the shit life that you're living.
Mm-hmm.
There's more beyond it that you can't understand. So from the early age, once I got into my teenage years, I started researching and reading all the books, Harry Price, Hans Holzer, all of the books based on the experiences that I was having at the time.
Which were what? Exactly.
Well, I mean, for instance, when I was 12 years old, I was in my room and the closet door was kind of slightly open. And we had one of those old houses where the carpet was higher, so the doors would always scrape the top of the carpet and would leave like a mark on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was slightly open, and I was going to sleep. About 5 minutes goes by, and the door slams. And I have siblings, so I was thinking, okay, somebody's playing a trick on me. So I go open the closet door. Nothing was in there. So I was like, this is weird. And me being the smart Southern man that I am, I leave it open again. And I go lay back down. Probably a little time happens and it slams again. This time I'm freaked out. I run to my parents' room, which is across the hall. And they're like, Shane, you're trying to stay up, go to bed.
Right.
We're tired. We have work in the morning.
Don't have time for this shit.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they take me back to bed, and for whatever reason, that closet door is open again. And it slams for a third time after they leave the room. This time they run into my room, and I grew up in a religious household. So my mother is pleading the blood of Jesus over me, doing whatever she can just to like, whatever's going on, it needs to stop now. And I ended up sleeping in their room that night. It was things like that. It was, I would have weird visions or dreams, I guess you can call it, where there would be people that would walk up to my bedside, and some of them would look like they're terrified. Some would say, where am I at?
Where am I at?
Where am I at? I don't know where I am.
That's the kind of stuff they were saying at the edge of your bed. Like they didn't know where they were literally.
Right. Like where
they weren't like haunting you. They're like, where is this?
It's like, help me. Where am I at?
What they look like?
So they look like us.
That scares me kind of.
They look like us.
That they don't know where they are.
Right.
More than them knowing where they are and who you are.
Right. And at that time, it's like, okay, is this just my subconscious? Is this because I'm going through a lot of crap?
Right. Yeah. Am I just stressed and imagining these things?
Right. But then I would have other experiences like the door slamming and stuff, things that I knew even at a young age, okay, it can't be a draft in my room because the carpet there, like it's hard for me to push the door closed.
There's physical stuff too.
Right. So there's compounding evidence. And even to this day, how I kind of do investigations is I don't just jump at everything and say, if I hear footsteps, I don't say, oh my God, that's a ghost. Or, I look at it as if there's compounding evidence that's leading to something that I would assume would be more paranormal in nature, then I would take a look at it and kind of try to explore it further. But just like footsteps or an old house settling, which can cause sounds of what it would sound like wood creaking or whatever.
Yeah, right.
All that stuff is, I think compounding evidence is when we have to take a look at it and, try to research further into what or who we're communicating with.
These people, I just have this image in my head now, these people on the edge of your bed wondering where they are. Let's just pretend for a moment that those were definitely ghosts. And how would you rationalize that? What are they doing there?
I don't know. Like I said,
what's your best theory if you were to make one up?
I would say that if they are real, I would say that they are in some transitional period and maybe a part of them has stayed behind and for whatever reason, they're stuck.
But you were seeing full people though, right?
Right.
They didn't look like a fragment of something. They were an actual full embodiment, like were they wearing clothes and stuff? I mean,
yeah, which is.
Did they seem like they were from this time period? Could you even tell that?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, no.
What do you mean?
I remember there was this one lady who looked happy and she was just walking by, but she was like in a Victorian style dress, like just a dress, corset, all that stuff. Hair up in a bun. It was strange. And again, like I said, I would think, okay, I'm just dreaming, but this was more than one occurrence and more than one house that I was in. Sometimes in stressful environments, sometimes when my life was going great. But it was these moments where it's like, okay, if this is real, and not even saying it is for certain, but if it's real, I want to find out more about it. So the more that I researched and stuff, the more I saw that there was many other people that were having similar experiences. And I just wanted to know more. But then the corporate world happened, and so my studying all that stuff came to a halt because corporate world happened, and I had to make a living.
There wasn't some Ghostbusters school around?
No, I wish, because I may have
Sign me up.
Yeah. But I started a family, had my wife and my kids and stuff, and I had to provide for them. So corporate world happened. Believe it or not, I was an executive in a company, worked my way up, and I was over hundreds of employees, but I was miserable. It was a soul-draining existence. I hated it.
Sounds bad.
I hated it. And I was in a hotel room one night in Coleman, Alabama. And just to rewind a little bit, a couple of weeks prior, I had a buddy of mine, a producer buddy of mine, saying, look, there's this gig, this TV gig that I think you'd be good for. You kind of fit the part of what they're looking for. Why don't you send in your headshot and all that stuff and see what happens? And I've been through all of that before, and it's like, nah, I don't really want to do that. I'm good with my job. I'm making money. It's fine. But because I was so miserable, I was like, okay, I'll just send it in. It only takes me a second.
Sure.
So I do that, and fast forward, I'm in my hotel room in Coleman, Alabama, and I'm in a really low spot because I was working 6 days a week. I would come home on Sunday, and I sleep all of Sunday away. So, because I was so exhausted, wasn't seeing my family, was missing first steps, birthdays, holidays, and I was just miserable. So I was in that hotel room just crying out to whoever or whatever would listen. It's like, look, I need help. I need a change. I can't keep doing this. Within 30 minutes, I look down. There's a phone call from LA, unknown caller. I pick it up, and it's the casting director for Holzer Files. And that kind of led me into... So it's almost like a fate type thing. Like it was something that...
Clearly you're
just,
like, okay, I should do this.
It's something that just kind of threw me into to doing it professionally, and it was a love of mine that I already had, so it was like a shoe-in. But that whole process too was scary because I was leaving a job that was paying very well, and my wife...
Definitely a risk, right? It wasn't just some easy, my life's going to be so much better now kind of move, right?
And people think, reality TV, oh man, you're probably rolling in the dough. It's not the case at all. Like people don't really understand how all of that
It's like,
works.
Guys, do you know the budget for these shows?
Yeah. It was like a promotional type thing. It was more of I was taking a pay cut.
Of course,
to do
right?
this.
Yeah, to do something that you wanted to do versus, something that was, I guess, more financially stable.
Right. So, that's why I credit my wife a lot to all of this, because she said, look, you love this. This is a passion of yours. This is something you've been wanting to do as far as searching and investigating this stuff. So if you want to do it, do it. I'm rooting for you. So yeah, it was a scary time, man.
I bet.
Because
taking that leap is
hard.
Most people, I feel like, go through life not ever taking that leap. I wouldn't say most, but a lot of people do, right?
Well, they play into what's safe, right? Which is not.
That's okay,
right?
But if you're someone who is sitting there, who's on the edge of doing it, just do it.
For sure.
Just
for
do
sure,
it, man. Whatever that even is.
For sure.
Don't commit a crime or something, but you know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's so many people too, like they play it safe because they have a family they have to take care of, and that's not knocking them at all. I completely understand that. But yeah, if you have an opportunity, it's something that, and it's doing something you love to do, just do it.
So when you look back, like in hindsight, any regrets here?
No.
does it almost scare you to think about if you didn't take that risk?
It scares me a lot.
Right?
Because
how close you were to not doing that.
right. And
That
because
scares me sometimes. I'm like, holy shit, I almost didn't do this?
right.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, and because I went through life and I had some mental health things going on because of things that have happened in my life.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, well, if I didn't take a step doing something I love, where would I be at? Would I still be here? And that's just being completely honest.
Right.
Because I had gone through a lot of really traumatic times in my life. So now, fast forward to this time, whenever I'm at events and I'm doing things, I get to talk to people, not just about the paranormal and the spooky stuff, but about mental health. And like, I've been there. I took a leap. If all of these things didn't play out like they were supposed to, I wouldn't be up here talking to you right now. I wouldn't be able to do what I love. So I get to encourage other people that may be in my same shoes at that time and be able to give them some hope. And that's something that is much more rewarding to me than a TV show or anything else.
Of course. Yeah. That human connection is priceless, right? And because you've been that guy on the other end and you may be on the other end again, or I might, and it's the other way around, right?
Right. And believe it or not, man, there's so many people that come to my events that they come to escape their own personal hell in their life.
Right.
And they come, this is something that they love, but at the same time, they come to kind of escape the everyday life of what they're going through.
And just sort of live in this world for a moment.
Right. Live in the world and get to explore something beyond.
That doesn't have the same rules and constraints, maybe.
Right.
Is that how you kind of perceive it? Or
Yep. And it shows them kind of like what I was thinking when I was younger. It's like there's more beyond this life that I'm living. There's more beyond that. And people get to come to these events and share in experiences of others that may be going through similar things that they're going through. And it's just a time of fellowship and connection. And I think that's, again, more important than TV, more important than anything else.
I guess, objectively speaking, it would be a sadder reality if there was nothing else, right? Not even from a religious standpoint, just if this was it, it's just us here on this big rock. There's nothing else out there. There's no other dimensions or anything. It's just we have really good imaginations and, we're just bored out of our minds at this point.
Yeah, it would be extremely sad.
Right?
That's true. So
it'd be lame. It would
it would be boring.
More lame than it would be sad.
Yeah.
It's like, that's stupid.
Right.
Really?
Right. And, I think a lot of times I'd be thinking too, well, am I just hoping for something more?
And I think that's part of it. I mean, I think that life would be more interesting if there was more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes do I have an overactive imagination? But then, just to give you a little example, these are things that kind of snap me out of that and say, no, there's more.
Okay.
I was in Waverly Hills Sanitarium, which is in Kentucky. It's considered one of the most haunted places in America. That's debatable,
Debatable.
But I was there.
Either way, I'm not going.
I was there doing. You need to go. We need to go together.
First or second, third, I don't care.
We need to go together. It'd be fun.
No, it's okay.
So anyway, I was doing an event there, and I had a group of like 15, 20 people.
Okay.
Right.
Is this like a tour, or you just?
Well, you're leading like a ghost hunt.
Okay,
like,
cool.
You're leading
so
like a little
you're the guy who's
investigation.
like, come to the spooky place, and you're.
Yeah.
But please tell me you actually get scared in here.
Oh,
as the guy who is, I guess, not putting it on an act in this situation.
People see. I'll leading up to it. You'll see.
Okay.
So I have the group, and I'm like, okay. And what I like to do is get everybody quiet, because when you have larger groups and stuff, it's kind of hard to do anything because everybody's talking.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get the group together.
Tell everybody to shut up.
Yep. Well,
Well,
kinder words, yeah. And I look down the hall, and I see this man, and he's kind of limping, and he's kind of falling behind. And I'm like, excuse me, sir, can you please join us, so we can get started? And as soon as I say that, I kid you not, you see the front of him walking towards, right? The only way I can describe it is he morphs and you see the back of his head and he's walking the opposite direction. It's like he did a pivot.
About face?
It's like he did an about face, but you didn't see the about face. You just see him, you see the back of his head instead. What's very interesting about this though, Payne, my whole group saw it.
Okay.
So it's not just me, you know,
Right.
my perception. The entire group saw this exact same thing. I sent 2 of the guys that were there running because I stayed with the group. Of course, my jumpy ass is not going to run after something like that. I may be the pro, but I'm not going to run. I'm going to send
That's not
somebody
my
else.
first
Yeah, I'm going to
instinct.
send somebody else to
Hey,
do it.
stop. Come back.
So I sent 2 guys to go, and this guy turns a corner. Whatever we saw, this shadow turns a corner and heads towards the atrium, the little chapel in the area. And they go in there, and there's nobody in the chapel at all. We had guards that are watching over the exits, so that way people can't go in or go out and join another group prematurely. We try to keep everybody together. They're like, we didn't see anybody come in or go out. But the fact that my entire group saw that he didn't just turn around, they saw him walking forward, then saw him walking backwards. Full on shadow figure, man. And there was no trace of anybody. That's what snaps me back. It's like, okay, there's more that we don't understand.
Right.
We like to label it ghosts and spirits. I don't like to say ghosts and spirits as much anymore. I just know that we're talking to something, whoever or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, and it's kind of, I don't know how to label it other than I know it's unexplainable. It's something, as of right now, it's paranormal in nature. It's outside of that box of scientific understanding anyway.
Why is it that ghosts are so hard to capture on video and pictures? I mean, there has to be something that scientifically explains that a little bit later, or they're just really good at ducking it somehow, right? Or is it not, like, I mean, just if you wanted to go there, is it something that the human eye can only perceive a certain way that isn't really able to be captured like that? I don't know. Like, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah. So again, on Holzer Files, we've shown, we have captured some stuff. I think it's
His hand.
Yeah, hand. There was a mist. It was Howard's Lodge, I believe it is. There was a mist going upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Some really interesting stuff that it's kind of hard for
Some
me
anomalies that we're not
right.
really.
It's hard for me to pinpoint what it is.
Okay.
And I think that it has something to do with, our perception of what we can see, what our eyes can physically see, and that's why IR can, it can capture things and it can see in a different scope than what our human eye could see.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be all frequency related. I think that may have something to do with it, that they may be showing up, but it's on certain frequencies, certain wavelengths.
Right.
Even cameras.
It's less physical than it is. I don't know.
Well, even our technology that we have maybe is not caught up to maybe the frequency that they're
can't
in.
capture that necessarily.
Yeah. I think even with EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, whenever you capture something on a recorder, a voice that was not yours or anybody else's, it's an interesting theory. There's this guy, Bill Chappell, that makes all of this tech and stuff, and he will tell you firsthand that he doesn't believe in ghosts. He just believes that there's some strange shit going on, and he's testing theories and testing things. But he told me something that was really interesting about EVP. He's like, Shane, right now that I have this microphone that can shoot a laser to a certain part of a room, and I can play music in that frequency, and it can sound like the music is coming from over there, but really it's coming from this device I have in my hand.
Whoa.
But I can make the sound go wherever I want it to go.
What?
And that's just
What is this called? I want one.
It's a mono. I'll have to ask him. It's mono something microphone, but it's a laser
That's
that he
crazy.
can point.
Like it's actually tricking your brain into, or is it
And he
really
can,
coming?
well, he can point it to certain like if there's a room
how does
full of
this
people.
work exactly? I mean, is still like audibly coming from this device in his hand?
So yeah, so it's electromagnetic,
But it's pinging somewhere,
but it's pinging somewhere else.
creating this perception that it's not coming from right here.
In a frequency that the human ear can hear.
Okay.
So like if there's a group of people, right, sitting in an audience, he can point this microphone to the right half of the audience, and only the right half can hear what's coming through.
Okay, yeah.
And the other half would be like, I'm not hearing anything.
Right.
So if there's things like that, I believe that there's so much more in regards to frequency, in regards to maybe our visual spectrum of what we can see that is unexplained, that maybe there's more that if our eyes could see in that scope, we'd be seeing a hell of a lot more, you know? So I think that the reason why sometimes we don't capture it is maybe we haven't caught up to the technology to be able to capture something like that, you know? And maybe we're on a certain wavelength in certain times that we're able to see anomalies and we're able to see things. You know, like there's different dream cycles and sleep cycles and stuff, right? And in those cycles, you can it's best for like hypnosis and things like that. I think maybe if we're in certain states, we're able to see and understand more. It's the same stuff with people who go through PTSD, and they'll claim all the time they see all kinds of things, and we say, yeah, well, it could just be because it's a stress disorder, it's all this stuff, and we'll label it as a medical disorder. But who's to say that they're not really seeing the things that they're seeing sometimes?
Well, either way, it's still a reality to them.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's a very thin line.
Right. Where it's like, if it's real to you, is it real? What's real?
Right.
Do we have to both say it's real?
Well, and here's the thing too, like, psychics and mediums, right? So they say that they can hear people speaking to them that nobody else can hear.
If you pay them money.
Well, I've worked with some good ones now. I've worked with some good ones.
Okay, yeah.
I will tell you that. I've worked with some good ones. And I'm in the Bible Belt, man. So I was told that they were all demonic.
Oh, right. These are
from the jump anyway.
These fortune tellers are really the devil.
Right. But, you know, they say that they can speak to people and they can hear different voices and things like that. But then we'll label someone else that says that schizophrenic.
Right.
So there's a fine line.
Yeah, you're
there.
right. Yeah.
There's a fine line. Are you crazy? Are you not? Are you seeing the things? Are you hearing the things that...
Are you making it look polished enough?
You love mediums, don't you?
Just kidding. But no, it is a wild thing.
I get it.
I hear voices. That's usually not a good thing.
Right.
But is that not the same thing that they're saying, right?
Well, that's the thing.
You don't call a number for that, right?
But there's a fine line. But then, you know, there's some cases I've worked on or researched, some true crime cases where they would call in mediums
legitimately, right?
And sometimes they would pinpoint, or they would give some instances where it would be a good lead.
In a lot of instances, they've done that.
So
clearly, they're like, we're running out of options here. We'll try anything, right?
Even the government, like even the government with remote viewing and things like that, they had a whole program catered to all of that.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to it, but to your credit, like there's a lot out there that, you know, aren't legitimate, and I believe there are a handful that really are, and that we need to listen to what they say before we just discard.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because we could be missing out on advancements.
Yeah.
If
this guy might be way smarter than us, and we're just over here, you know, shrugging it off.
Right. Well, you got to think, for the longest time, people thought the earth was flat, and they thought anybody that gave any other theory, they thought were idiots.
Yeah. I mean, if you're still a flat earther, is that... Are you really a flat earther? If you're still
well,
a
I
flat
think
earther,
you're a
right?
hardcore flat earther.
Like
if-
are you just being anti? Or,
yeah,
right.
I think you're being
Because clearly it isn't flat, right? I mean,
you're just being a rebel.
and
this
it's like
point.
to what end, though, right? Like
Yeah.
if the Earth is flat, then why is it? What's the point of the conspiracy? Like,
Yeah.
why? Why
Yeah.
did we convince you that it wasn't flat?
yeah,
Like, who cares if it was flat or not? This doesn't make sense
No,
to me. Like,
no.
to what end?
and to all the flat earthers that are listening right now,
Right.
I
All
apologize.
one of you,
yeah,
just tune out.
yeah. No, but people thought they were crazy at one point.
Well,
and
we're
they were, and then people who thought that. Sorry, I said that all wrong. So people
you
who
flat earther.
no, not at all. People who entertained ideas that hey, the Earth isn't flat.
Yeah.
Everybody who thought the Earth was flat at the time was like, "You're nuts." But if they didn't listen
Right.
to that reason, we wouldn't have the advancements we have now. I kind of screwed that all the hell on back.
Sounds
But-
like you're more on the flat side.
No, not at all. But that's the thing. It's like at one point in time, people thought something was a certain way, but if they didn't listen to other theories and things like that, then we would still be stuck in that frame of thinking.
If we didn't challenge that, right?
Right.
It's so easy to be in the moment and think that we've learned everything, right? I think that's very naive and closed-minded to think that way.
Yep.
But I totally get how even society makes it easier to think that. But we are literally learning shit every single day,
And we'll never stop.
and we'll never
I
stop.
don't think we'll ever stop.
You don't stop.
Yeah.
Period.
And this is why I love what I do so much. A lot of people look at it and be like, "Oh, you believe in ghosts, you believe in all this stuff." But I think the search for something is far more rewarding to me than actually finding the answer to all of this stuff.
Right.
I think the search and building the connections along the way is far more valuable to me.
Just that pursuit and that journey that you go on is
Yeah.
kind of just your life story now.
Yeah, because it's trial and error. You're thinking, okay, is this real? Is this not? And you entertain different theories and different things and come up with your own conclusions. I mean, I think that is what life is all about. Really, is working out our own life journey and learning along the way.
Right. You had mentioned before we met that there was a missing persons case you wanted to talk about, and that piqued my interest. What is this case? What is it?
So it's the case of Diana Rojas.
Okay.
So, and the reason why this is so close to my heart is because she was good friends with my mom. We were in Fort Irwin, California, and they were a part of what they call PWOC, which is Protestant Women of the Chapel. So it was a Bible study.
Okay.
Like I said, I grew up in a religious household.
Right.
And she was a really sweet lady. And while we were there, we would have get-togethers and cookouts and stuff like that. And then we kind of lost touch because, as military families do, that's what happens, is you kind of move on and do your own thing. My mother calls me one day and she's like, "Hey, you remember Diana Rojas?" I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, she's been missing." And she'd been out of touch with her for some years. She's like, "She's been missing for a while, since 2000. And in fact, the 23rd anniversary is in a few days, actually."
Oh, wow.
She's been missing since October 20th, 2000. And the reason why I find it odd is she had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. And anybody that knew Diana knew that she would never leave her daughter at all. So just to talk about it just a little bit, leading up to this, her and her husband, they were going through a divorce. His name is Americo. She had a restraining order against him for stalking and for violence and abuse and stuff.
That's 2 strikes right there.
Right. So they were going through this divorce at the time, and a part of the court-ordered living arrangements and stuff, Americo paid for 2 apartments in this apartment complex. So Diana lived in one apartment, and he would live with his sister and daughter whenever he was on leave. So one night there was a court-ordered drop-off. She had to drop off her daughter to him. So she did, and she had a date with her boyfriend, which was David Howard. And they were in the apartment 12:15, 12:30 in the morning on October 20th. David Howard leaves, and he says he closed the door behind him and locks it. And she's asleep on the sofa. Diana is, supposedly. October 20th, 9 a.m. comes around, and David Howard is at church, of course, because he was the pastor's son. So that's where she worked at the time. It's called the nesting place.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls, and there's no answer. So they start freaking out. Where is she? They go to the apartment, and they don't find her, but they find a couple of droplets of her blood on the sofa. And what was really weird about that is there was a bandana on the sofa too that seemed to be soaked in what they say is urine. What the police say is urine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Which is really odd. And her 92 black Nissan pickup truck was also missing. So they did all of this searches and stuff, and nothing came up. David Howard, the boyfriend, and Americo Rojas were interviewed, and they were suspected at the time, but they both had alibis. Americo said that he was with his daughter and sister in the apartment.
And so I guess
and the sister vouched for that at the time.
At the time, I say, okay.
So the police later on said that there was inconsistencies. They couldn't validate whether or not the alibi matched up or not.
Mm-hmm.
David Howard, he had a solid alibi. I don't remember what his alibi was. But years go by, and what is really frustrating for me is that 92 pickup, there's no paper trail. You know how vehicles normally have the paper trails and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sign of this truck at all.
Like it's never come up again to your knowledge.
At all.
Like it's gone.
It just disappeared with her.
Yeah.
So what's weird is years later, I believe, 16 years later, they get an anonymous tip. Long Beach does. And they say, hey, look, Diana Rojas, she's not missing. She's dead. And you can find her in the desert. Here, she's buried there. And this anonymous tip gave coordinates, gave like the location of where she was buried. So the police at the time was like, I think is Mark Biggle is the detective. He's like, okay, I need to check this out because this is looking promising. So they linked up with this third-party group called NecroSearch, which they deal with like anomalies. They use satellite imagery to see if there's any anomalies from month to month or year to year in locations.
Right, if like the geography changed where someone may have been buried there or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. And they came across 11 anomalies that they sent to the detective, and the detective narrowed it down to 5. And then there was one specific spot where NecroSearch said, this is probably your best bet of if she's buried here, this is where you'll find her. So they took out a crew, dug up these spots, nothing. So the family had to relive all of this again. It was like, okay, they thought they were going to get some closure. Okay, she's, even though it's not good still, but they were robbed of that closure again because they didn't find her. They didn't find the truck. And another puzzling thing is Americo Rodriguez, right? His MO in the military, because he was in the military, was operating earth diggers, like earth movers, these bulldozers and excavators. That was his MO in the military.
It's someone who clearly knows how to do that if that were...
Right. There's a lot of things strange about this case.
Was it a letter sent to the police? Like, that had coordinates? Did someone write a letter? Like, what is it?
No. They called in.
They called
and said, "Hey, look, this is where you can find it." They called in. It was a mail.
Reported somewhere, or did they trace it?
It was a mail. Well, they said that they couldn't. The detective said that there's no way we could have pinpointed who it was that gave the tip.
Well, that's too bad.
Right. So it's a lot of really puzzling, frustrating things for me, because it feels like, and I'm not trying to blame anybody, but it feels like the ball has been dropped in some way here.
Oh, I mean, clearly, you're at this point, you're looking at two people that need to be re-interviewed by the police, right?
Yep.
Or let me talk to you then. If this was your friend, you should be wondering what happened to her still. I know it might be hard to talk about, but it would be more suspicious if you didn't.
Right.
Because you could help clear up a lot of stuff.
And here's another thing, Payne. Like, not long after Diana came up missing, Americo tries to take out a $300,000 life insurance policy.
Is it after?
After. So,
okay. Why would you even? Okay.
Exactly.
Bad call. One.
Exactly.
And is
And
that just as obvious as it seems?
right. But think about it. Like, if you have a 2-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
you're not going to want to just give up hope that your daughter's mother is dead.
How old's the daughter now?
Now she's 20,
25?
25. Yep.
Wow.
So, and that's another thing. Americo cut off all ties with Diana's side of the family after all this went down. So Mercedes not only lost a mother, but she lost that whole side of her family as well.
Jeez. Okay.
So all of these things it's frustrating. Why would you take out a life insurance policy? Then one of his friends from Fort Irwin, his soldier buddies, tells the police and tells friends that Americo said, "Oh, they'll never find Diana." Why would you say that? Why would you say that if you didn't know something? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to point blame here.
These are things that this person should answer to. I mean, if they aren't true, then defend yourself. But I think that either you're just really, really unlucky, or you're not.
Right. And it's sad because, again, Mercedes had to go, and she's probably been told a different version of
I'm
a
sure.
story.
Yeah.
And then missing out on that half of her family as well.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And again, anybody that knew Diana knew how sweet she was. I remember I was only 13 at the time, 12, 13 years old. She was always super sweet to me, very funny.
Yeah.
Just a great person. But I remember Americo as well. When we were having one of the get-togethers, he looked like he didn't want anybody there.
Oh, really?
And
you remember this?
He's very intimidating, very
interesting. Yeah.
very intimidating guy. Like like very stern faced. Didn't give a shit if you were there or not.
Wow.
Didn't want you there. Wouldn't socialize. So it would give you bad vibes even then.
Yeah.
And whenever my mother told me that she went missing, she told me right away she felt it was probably Americo, because there was a restraining order that she took out against him. She would tell her coworkers that he broke her arm one time, and that she was fearful of her life. All of this stuff, and he was never a prime suspect. I just don't get it.
Pretty cut and dry. Hopefully, someone hears something.
I hope,
that prompts someone to speak about this, because I assume he's still around, likely, right?
as far as I know, he is.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to, because I've tried to try to find him online
just
and
like
stuff.
Kind of it's been in your head over the years, just randomly.
I haven't been able to locate him or his daughter. I looked to see if maybe his daughter had a social media presence at all.
I bet Mike could find him.
I bet so.
Mike's like, yeah, I already did.
Y'all are the pros here on that. But that's one thing. Kind of what led me into researching it some anyway.
Yeah,
was like I have this group whenever I'm not doing the TV stuff called The Searchers, and it's me and a longtime buddy of mine, Josh Purvis, and we try to provide answers for those unusual, unexplained things, but also for the living as well. So we've done some true crime stuff as well. Just because it's all about the search. Like we're all searching for something that's strange and unusual, or it's other things.
Right.
We're all searching for something. We're all on a journey. And this just hit close to home, man. And the fact that this beautiful lady, there's no answers whatsoever. There's some leads and being told, and she could be out there in the desert. They could have missed her by 100 yards.
I mean, it's probably a place worth researching.
I mean, and there was 11 anomalies. Where did those anomalies come from?
Yeah.
How were those there if they were different from a certain time to present?
Yeah.
Why were those anomalies there in the first place?
Yeah.
Just so many
There's
questions.
there's a lot of unanswered questions there.
And if you narrowed down 6 anomalies, why didn't you just go to the other 6? I know you have to have resources and time and money and stuff.
Right. This is not cheap or easy to do by any means,
right. But why not investigate those
places
others?
to still search, I think, right?
Right.
That's what it sounds like.
Right. Fort Irwin, if anybody's been there, that's like the I don't want to cuss too much. The asshole of the West. Okay,
Is it?
It was like 130.
I don't want to go there.
It was like 130 degree dry heat that
Oh
summer.
my God!
Whenever we first moved there, and it's just there's nothing there but desert.
Asshole of the West.
The asshole of the West. But there's nothing there but desert, man. Like so. I mean, if she was buried, I think that if something happened to her in that way, that she's buried with the truck. Because why would there not be a paper trail? Why would there not be
Where'd the
registered?
truck go, right? That's an interesting point.
And even the detective at the time, he's like, there is no trace at all of this truck since. And this is years and years later, man. So I would think that if something happened to her,
the truck is part of the evidence there.
Right. 100%.
Gone with her.
100%.
Right.
Because she wouldn't have left her daughter. There's
also,
no
a truck
way.
is something you would keep.
Right.
It's worth something.
And it was registered. It's registered in America's name.
Right. Why? In what circumstance are you ditching the truck here?
Yep.
If it's foul play.
For sure.
So, it's a good point.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling to me, man.
Yeah. No, we'll share this in the episode. Hopefully someone hears something.
Yeah, please do. If anybody hears anything, you could have the missing puzzle piece that ties all of this together and gives closure to a family. And that's what's is the most important about all of this. But yeah, I mean, there's so many, it's sad. There's so many missing persons. You are instrumental in a lot of all of this, bringing it to light. But there's so many people out there that don't get the closure, that don't get the answers. And that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Especially for a young kid, Mercedes, that had to grow up without a mother. It's heartbreaking stuff. And never knowing it, if her mother abandoned her or if she's dead, she has no answer.
Just the unanswered question part of it, it's got to be a whole other layer that is hard to, probably unimaginably hard to grapple with.
And the fact that he talked to his friends saying that that they would never find her, he's talked to more than just that friend then.
Yeah.
If that is true, and he really did say that, there's more people that know something.
Absolutely. Or they've observed behavior or instances over the years that point to a direction here.
For sure.
It may just be a one-off thing, but if you put it with everything else here, tells us something that this family needs to know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Hopefully something happens. We'll do some digging too. I'm curious now. Even
please do.
Where these people are now. But yeah, cases get solved every day. It's not easy to do, but sometimes the time that's passed is a good thing for certain people. Maybe people are less or more likely to talk because their life's different now.
Yeah. Or it's been weighing on them for so long they have to get it off their chest.
Or they're ready to free themselves of the burden of it all.
Yeah. And I know it's anonymous tips for a reason, but I would really love to know who that man was that gave the tip and said that, oh, she's been murdered.
Yeah, like
'Cause that was
someone who
his
knows
words.
something, or is it a prankster?
Right.
Either one, it's messed up.
But if it was a prankster, because that's what my thought process was too. But if it was a prankster, then why would there be anomalies in the area that this tip came from that said, hey, she's buried out here? Why would there be these anomalies in that area?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Yeah. Well, if we find anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Well, thanks, man. This has been a blast.
Yeah, I appreciate it
We're
very much,
all
man.
kind of places, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Talking to Death is a production of Tenderfoot TV and iHeart Podcasts, created and hosted by Payne Lindsey. For Tenderfoot TV, executive producers are Payne Lindsey and Donald Albright. Co-executive producer is Mike Rooney. For iHeart Podcasts, executive producers are Matt Frederick and Alex Williams, with original music by Makeup and Vanity Set. Additional production by Mike Rooney, Dylan Harrington, Sean Nerney, Dayton Cole, and Gustav Wild for Cogito. Production support by Tracy Kaplan, Mara Davis, and Trevor Young. Mixing and mastering by Cooper Skinner and Dayton Cole. Our cover art was created by Rob Sheridan. Check out our website, talkingtodeathpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Talking to Death. This series is released weekly, absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, you can subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to tenderfootplus.com.